Welcome everyone for another episode of All About Teams, where we meet with fellow professionals coming across different industries and talking about anything that relates to team development, team performance. And today we are really lucky. I'm really excited about this episode. We have Mia, who will be joining us today and talking about how she has been able to work and help teams adapt to this new remote and digital age. Mia is coming from Ponteo. She's doing a lot of work a strategic facilitation, both with mature organization and scale-ups. Hello, Mia. How are you today?
Good. Thanks for inviting me.
No
Exciting
problem.
about
Thank you
being
for
here.
joining us. Where are you based, Mia?
I'm based in Stockholm in Sweden.
Sweden. Perfect. Beautiful. Well, Mia, I know about you. I've been working with you a little bit. I'm sure that not all of our viewers are familiar with you and Ponteo. I think it'd be great to have a quick introduction about you and what you do, Mia.
Yeah. So as you can see from my map here, I've been traveling quite a lot. So I like traveling. Back in those days when we could travel a bit. So I've been to 100 countries. I've been working in 20 countries and I lived in 10 countries on 5 continents. And that's how I really got to understand the hard way the barriers, the culture barriers and the communication barriers. And that's how I got involved in and excited about what is really happening with the teams and how can really find the critical success factors for teams that are actually working all over the world. So I'm an engineer from the beginning, but then I developed into the organizational development as well. So I've been doing this for 15 years now in my small company.
Nice. And traveling, you see, this is what I love about this kind of video podcast. I even get to learn things about the people that I work with. Mia, 100 countries. I was not familiar with this. Out of those countries that you at least worked in, you said 20. Which one was your favorite country?
My 2 favorite countries are Mexico and Australia. So Mexico is super interesting with its rich culture, and they have the pride in the small states and the national pride. It's a very interesting people to study, and they are super friendly. So I mean, I learned most of my Spanish there because they really had the patience with me. No,
I
but
love that. You know what? Mexico is one of the country I haven't been to, and hopefully I can go there soon. So when I do, I will definitely get in touch with you, Mia.
yeah,
But we're not here to talk about Mexico and Australia. We're here to talk about the keys to success for remote and hybrid teams, especially in lead agile office. And let's start with this. We all know what happened. I think it's a couple of years ago now, 18 months ago with COVID. That had a drastic impact on all organization, pushing them to reorganize how they work, how they look at the culture, the values, how they organize the teamwork. And I think in connection to that, there has been a lot of efforts around creating more agile teams, agile organization. And that's the reason why you're here today with us, Mia, and what we would like to talk about. But let's start with that. What have you seen from the different organization, mature and scale up, that you have been working with in the past 18 months? How have they been impacted by this whole digitization, Mia?
I mean, we've been working with remote teams. I mean, remote teamwork has been going on for 20, 30 years. I mean, from the beginning only with the phone, and then it became video meetings, and now during the last couple of years, it's actually been a huge development in the tech sector that really gives us new tools. So what I can see from the teams that I've been working with is that the ones that had already started to apply the digital tools with the collaboration platforms, etc., to the ones that were more mature in the digital way of working, they could become more resilient when the corona hit, because that means that they could actually continue to build and strengthen the culture every day, although they were not longer in the office. But the ones who didn't have the digital maturity, that was stuck with that culture was what happened in the office, then the culture just disappeared, and it became a lot of more stressful for the employees there. And also what we need to take into account is also that corona has caused a lot of grief. So I mean, there are always a large portion of grief in our society, because I mean, we are grieving for a long time. Corona hit us so bad that Corona caused even more grief. It's like we could lose the job, we could lose a family member. It's like sickness. There's so many different areas. So it's like we need to be even more humble and empathic about our team members and understand from where they are, especially when they're working from home. So it's like we need to put more conscious focus onto the emotional side of our employees than we did in the office, both because of Corona, but also when you're working remotely, because then it's so easy that the meetings, when you meet with your employees, that you're actually just focusing on the rational functional progress, and that you skip the small talk that you had in the office. But the thing is, just be conscious about it, and to include that schedule time for the social small talk as well. I mean, you're probably familiar with the Swedish fika.
Yeah, I am, because I have been working in IKEA in Singapore, but I'm not sure everyone is. So what is a
Yeah.
fika, Mia?
So fika is it's a part of the Swedish culture where you actually meet twice a day in many offices. So it is a way to just sit down, have a chat, have a coffee. So fika is often coffee or tea together with a biscuit or a cake. So I mean, the fika culture is really strong in Sweden, and I mean there are cafes all over the world. So the fika culture here is that a lot of organizations in Sweden, they took it on with Corona, so they had digital fikas, which mean that
Nice.
okay, 3 o'clock in the afternoon we just have a digital fika, and if you have time to come, pop in, and we just sit there and have a chat. So you actually consciously schedule time for the social small talk. And those departments that I worked with that did it, those organizations, they came out stronger, because when you're working digitally, you got to see more of the personal side. It's like, oh, what is happening there? Oh, you have a pet. Oh, I didn't know you had that one. You've been to that place as well. So it's like you're actually getting even more connections.
No, that's great. And I love what you say about the fika. It brings so many good memories when I was back at IKEA, and we were having the morning fika and the afternoon fika.
Yeah.
And that's what we talk when we work with some of our clients as well. And we like to mention this idea of culture fading. And I think it's very much aligned to what you've been talking about, Mia. Is that before an organization, like the culture, the values, it didn't happen in the actual business meeting. It's what happened in the hallway, at the pantry, in the fika moment.
Yeah.
And now everyone goes on Zoom or Microsoft Teams, and we get on the Zoom call, we talk about business, we drop off the call, and we lose all of this kind of human interaction with everyone. And what I like about what you're saying is that it's not just about digital maturity. It is important, and you need to have the right digital tool, but you need to be conscious about creating those moments and have the right emphasis on people, because otherwise people will feel stressed. And the what you have shared around the grief, I think it's pretty much what we see with everything that's happening around the mental health right now. So it's great to hear that. And what have you seen from organization? What I have seen from some clients is that a lot of people were kind of trying to negotiate with reality at first, saying, yeah, but it's not going to stay. We wait in 3 months and we see how it's going to go. But we can wait another 3 months. So let's try and negotiate with reality. Now it's been 18 months. Are organizations still kind of trying to negotiate and wait, or are they trying to embed the new ways of working? What have you been seeing from organizations that you've been working with, Mia?
I've seen all across the scale. So I mean,
Yeah.
I know the companies who were actually working digital before, and especially if they were international companies, because they had to have a digital way of working. But they even put more emphasis on that one. And then there are others that are slowly growing into it. And what I'm also seeing now is the big digital gap within organizations, where now it's like, okay, so now all the white collar people, they are now digital mature. However, the expectations is that the whole organization is digital mature. So now we have that the whole blue collar sector needs to be trained as well in teams, so we can actually have a digital identity, so we can really have digital collaboration. So it's like that is where it's a huge gap now at the moment to really bring all of those up to speed as well.
Great. And I know you've been working quite a lot with these organizations, trying to help them adopt this kind of new ways of working, and get more mature in this new environment, digital age. And I really like, before diving into how you do it, I like your approach, because what you really focus on is mindset, right? It's not so much result. Tell us more about this. Why mindset first, Mia?
Well, the thing is, as I said, that we've been working remotely for 20, 30 years, but we haven't really had the great tools. The fact is, what I'm seeing now when I'm working with different teams and different organizations, like, actually, we're working as we did 20 years ago. There's not much that has happened in 20 years. And it's like, if you look at your mobile phone, you wouldn't like to have the mobile phone you had 20 years ago, if you even had a mobile phone. So now it's like, how come we're working? How come we are writing emails, having meetings as we did 20 years ago? And 20 years ago, we didn't have the digital collaboration tools, which we have now. So now it's like, we need to we need to recalibrate our mindset to really understand and leverage the new tools. So we're not stressing our employees, because the employees and the teams are just like, just another tool. It's like, I've had it. I've had enough with emails, chats, and meetings. Like, I can't take it anymore. But it's because we're using it the wrong way. It's like, we need to be smarter about using it, so it's actually helping the teams instead of stressing the teams.
And you've been kind of advocating for 4 different mindsets that I know you've been using with organizations that can actually help those organizations and their teams and employees be more successful. What are those 4 mindsets, Mia?
Yeah, so that is the concept of lean agile office that we are implementing with customers now around Europe. So it's actually 4 simple ones, and you will say, really? What change could that make? It's like, but when you start to think about it, it's like, yeah, there are actually some value that could be beneficial here. So it's let me start with an example instead.
Yes.
Let's say I am a manager. So I am a manager, and I have my team, and we need to get a lot of tasks done. Okay, so I have my to-do list in Outlook, and I put them in, and then I assign them to different people, and then I get a new person coming in, and I need to get that one up to date on what's happening. How do I do that one? Yeah. And then one of my team members is also going on parental leave. You know, in Sweden, we have quite long parental leaves. It's like, okay, now we have to hand over all those tasks, etc. So it's like a lot of things that I, as a manager, used to do for my team. It's not the best way of doing it, because my team members cannot see. It's not transparent. So that's where you can actually start to use the new collaboration tools like Teams, Slack, etc. So what you can do is actually change the mindset from me to we. They will say, instead of me as a manager, that I'm responsible of coordinating everything, to actually make it that we are together responsible and accountable to make this happen. So if we're doing that, that means that instead of me as a manager pushing out information and tasks, is that we have the information available, and we can have more self-organizing, because everyone can see the total workload. That we also go from task to flow. So instead of seeing things as just a task, it's actually, if it is a task with a result, that result will be that output will be the input to the next one, etc. So the more you can start to see your tasks as part of a flow, which is a part of a larger flow. And if it's not, then you should really think about, is this actually adding value? So it's really about thinking about the nature of the tasks that you're doing. And then you have the 4th one, which is synchron or asynchronous. And this is the biggest shift. It's that 20 years ago, the only way that we could collaborate, if you and I were on the same team, well, the only thing we could do was actually to have a meeting. And that's when we could actually be efficient in collaboration. And then between the meetings, we would send some emails back and forth. So it wouldn't be as efficient. What we have now with the digital collaboration tools is that we can actually move a lot of the collaboration offline. We can move it away from the meeting, because what's happening is that the calendars are getting choked with so many meetings, because we're still putting as many things into the meetings as we did 20 years ago. There's a lot of things. If we start to think of the meetings as flows instead of a task, we can find that we can remove portions out of the meetings that we can actually do between meetings. And when we do it between the meetings, there will be the information will be available for more people instead of just those in the meetings, which means that you can actually have shorter meetings, you can have fewer meetings with fewer participants, which means that you would actually raise the level of energy and engagement in each meeting, because when you have too many passive members in a meeting, that will reduce the energy. So by having fewer participants in the meeting, you will actually raise the energy, and also by shortening the meetings. But you will still make the information available to more people, because you see the meeting is part of a bigger flow, which means that more people can participate in providing information into the meeting, and more people can see the results of the meeting afterwards in the distribution. So this is by changing this. And when we talk about this fika culture, this is also what you can do within Teams or whatever collaboration tool you're using. You can actually have a coffee machine channel. So you can actually, instead of having, like we say, fika is when you real time meet with your colleagues. Not everyone is working during the same shift. So when I work with production units that are working shift, well, then they have more benefit from having this coffee machine channel, where they can actually, so if I'm working day shift, I can provide some fun things there and jokes, etc. And if you go in and work night shift, oh, we can go there and so this is what they did in the day shift. Yeah. So you're actually creating connections between the shifts that you couldn't do before, because you had colleagues that were never seeing each other because they were not working the same shift. So you can actually build a lot of the culture online, which is helping and doing it in ways that you couldn't do before if you were just focusing on the real-time connection. So as well as doing it over shifts, you can do it across time zones as well.
Nice. And you can do that across organization, and that's what I really like about what you're saying is you're not just focusing on the executive team or the blue collars, but you're really looking at the entire organization, because such a change for this to work and for this to be successful, it has to come across the whole board, and you have to engage the entire organization. Otherwise, you might have a few events that are going to deliver value across a couple of weeks, and then everything is going to drop off. And that's the challenge of behavior change, right? And having the right mindset at the outset is what is going to make you successful at the end. So tell us maybe more from an implementation perspective, because I know a lot of the people that that view and listen to this podcast always have at the back of our head, all right, Mia, I like this for mindset. How do I make it happen? What is your secret sauce? So how do you work with organization, both from the top up to all the workers, to engage them on this mindset shift, Mia?
There's so many aspects to these questions. It's like, where can I start on this one? Because I mean, if we look at the frictions in any organization, there will be friction. And so when you're going to implement this, I mean, what I've seen in companies that I work with, that we actually easily can free up 15% of the time, which is 6 hours a week for managers. That's a lot of time that can be freed up. That means that is a really good goal and value for the managers. But in order to get this working, you need to start with a value for the employees. Where is the friction for the employees? So they can, because you need to get them enough motivated to engage in the digital platforms, because you are actually trying to move away from the old way of working. And our brains are not helping us. I mean, these ones are saving us energy by trying to force you to do whatever you did yesterday worked fine. Don't try to change it. Don't try to change it. That requires a lot of energy. No. So it's like really motivate. What is in it for the employees? With the long-term value for the organization, with the culture, removing the digital gap, and to free up time, etc. That is the long-term value. But you need to start with what is the incentive for the employee. How can we actually help the work for them so they don't feel stressed about this new workload, this new way of working? It's like, where do you have the friction? And actually you can find these frictions, because I mean, these are the frictions that are in the companies. Like I don't I, as an employee, I don't know who's doing what. I
That's
don't
it.
know if something is falling between the chairs. I don't see if there are many people working on the same thing. I cannot find the latest version of information. So these are some frictions, but it's like these have been so small. So it's like no one is actually doing anything about it. But now when we have like, we have a digital platform here that we could actually utilize. But then you need to understand what is the friction, what is cumbersome for us to do today. Well, we think it's cumbersome to fill in this form. Maybe this is a good way to really move into this one. So it's actually about finding the incentives. So there is no secret recipe to it. It's like, this is the way to go, because it's all about what is working and what is not working within your organization. One example during Corona is that some companies actually moved into Teams, for example, instead of publishing things on the intranet, which is more a one-way communication. They thought that it's very important now during Corona that we are, as a management team, is visible, that we are actually sharing, but that we also available for feedback. So they moved into Teams and did live sessions once a week on different topics, but also opened up channels where they were available to answer questions, etc. Because there were a lot of uncertainty. We are in a lot of uncertainty at the moment. We are in a complex world. Corona just speeded that up. It will not go away. Tomorrow will be volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So it's like we just need to start to understand how we are handling this and how can we build trust and the psychological safety so we can actually increase the productivity even when we're working remotely. Because we will continue to work remotely, digital. It would be even more complex because before it was maybe we were working majority from the office, and now we were working digital during Corona, and now we're going to combine this, and there will be so many new dimensions. Like how are we going to have our meetings? Are we going to have meeting days? Are we going to have which platforms, etc.? And then we're building on to that the ecosystems of organizations are increasing as well. So it's like from having quite clear boundaries around an organization, that is becoming fuzzy as well. So it's like, hello.
No, that's true. And now you're working with not people who are just sitting next to you, but maybe someone is in Australia, someone is in Europe, someone is in Singapore, and you have to work through different cultures. There's so many different dimensions to look at, as you're rightly saying, Mia. What have you seen as a result? And you started to mention it, that some organizations have been able to free up to 6 hours, which is quite amazing. So it's not just we need to do it because everyone is trying to do it right now. There's actually business outcome and business impact out of it. What have you seen, Mia?
Yes, I mean, it's actually when you start to think about this for mindset, when you start to go through your working week, it's like how are we doing things? Because I mean, whoever is a manager or leader today, I mean, they have this position based on the knowledge they have, but actually we haven't really been taught so much in how we do the business. And it's like whenever I do work with a client, I ask them how much time they spend in meetings. No one says less than 50%. So it's like it is quite important that we have efficient meetings and we actually understand what is an efficient meetings. So it's like there is a lot of potential there. And based on my view, how I've been working with meetings, as I've been working so much internationally and look at what is the best way to get results in meetings and between meetings. So the three purposes of meetings is actually to produce something, to learn something, or to build relationships. So the fika is super, super important, not to be neglected. But so this time that you can free up, it's not about that you are going to reduce the number of employees. No. You're freeing up this time because you certainly need it now. That time is needed for strategic planning, for more competence development, for involving your employees, to have more social chats and build relations with your employees, etc. So these 6 hours you can actually use as a manager to alleviate your bad consciousness that you have when you go to sleep every night, feeling that I'm still not having enough time to do my competence development, to spend time with my employees, etc. It's like that's the fear and the anxiety of managers today. It's like, I don't have enough time in my schedule to do those things, and those things are needed.
No, and I love how you're kind of highlighting the importance of the leader and the
Mm.
middle management in making such a shift, because they are the one leading team, they are the one kind of organizing the work, and they need to be embracing this change, and they need to be the sponsor of the change for this to be impactful for the entire organization. And I want to go back to your first mindset. That's the one I go back to, like the me versus we.
Yeah.
And I'm going to share an observation that I have from working with some leaders, some teams, but I'd like to have your view on this. One of the challenge of moving from the me to we is that it requires leader to kind of leave their ego at the side. There
Yeah.
is a little bit of, yes, but I am the one with power, especially for newly promoted managers and leaders who are not like very familiar with this. That's the whole purpose of me being a leader. I need to do that. How
Mm.
can I not do this? And if I don't do this, what's my role in there? How do you help people and leaders understand that? And is it something that you see as a challenge as well in organization, Mia?
Yeah, and you're totally right that one, and that is more visible in certain cultures,
Mm,
that information is power.
mm,
But that is the paradigm shift we are going through, and we've been going through it for a couple of years, which is actually moving from information is power to information sharing is power. So it's
yeah.
not about I'm a leader because I have the information, but I am perceived as a leader and being
Mm,
followed because I share information.
yeah.
So that is the transformation journey for a leader. And when I'm saying from me to we, it is, as you say, it's a lot of ego, but it's also a lot of contradicting trainings and competencies. Like,
Mm,
I mean, we've spent years and years and so much money on the personal efficiency. But yeah, I need to get training and you will be more efficient in Outlook. It's like, no, 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 no. Don't lock your information into your Outlook, because
yeah.
whatever you're doing in Outlook will contradict the collaboration that is happening
Yeah.
in the shared platform. So it's really moving out from Outlook into Teams or whatever collaboration platform you
Mm,
have that is actually more beneficial for you.
yeah.
Because I mean, the biggest struggle now is actually, okay, how can we collaborate more efficiently? How can we build the trust so we actually, as you say, we can
Mm,
uh, leave our egos behind and trust each other to share more information?
yeah.
Because also as done in the studies of high performance teams, the more if teams can share new information, the more
Mhm.
they can develop and grow and
Yes.
become more efficient. And it's a huge cultural step to take that.
Mm. And the me to we is also what can be done on an organizational level for competence development, where we see that a lot has been invested into executive coaching and leadership development.
Mm.
And it's not that it doesn't have a place. It is great, and you need to develop your own self. But a team is a living organism on its
Yeah.
own, and you also need to develop the competence of the leader and of the team members so that they can become a high performing team. And so just looking at the individual by itself will not deliver the work that you need, but it's also about looking how can you grow the maturity of the team within your organization so that the entire organization can grow in maturity and deliver the outcome that you want as well. And having this shift, both expecting it from your team members and from your employees, but also having it when you're at the top of an organization, I think is key to making that a success, Mia.
Especially as you're saying maturity, because I mean, the maturity of actually being able to reflect on ourselves as a team.
Mm,
I mean, that shouldn't be underestimated, because that's the only way that we learn is by reflecting, and to really give the teams the tools to be able to develop their own maturity on the
mm,
way, instead of doing just one intervention here
yeah,
and then it goes bad and we need to do another intervention. It's like, no, no, no. Give the teams the tools and understanding so they can create the momentum, so they can
yeah.
develop. Because I mean, this is not a one-time effort. This is,
No, it
this
is.
is how you're building the new culture, the strong
Yeah,
culture, which is the only thing that cannot be copied into your
yeah.
competitors.
And it's the value of the kind of stop and reflect. And the beauty is that there is research that has shown recently that like self-reflective teams can actually
Mm.
improve their effectiveness by up to 25-30% right now. So again, it's not just let's take some time to learn for the sake of learning, is there will be actually business impact out of that. And how can you make that a standard habit into
And
your kind of team process?
yeah, and there I want to share something that I've seen a lot now, is because I work a lot with manufacturing. I work a lot
Mm,
with engineers, with high technical organizations, and also where you've been working a lot with the lean methodology, which means that
mm,
there's a lot of anxiety of, yes, I should do right from me, but that means that people are not really sharing their inner thoughts. They are actually only sharing what is allowed in the culture.
mm,
So it's like when I work in my programs with teams, I actually work with one of the concept of test talking, where they are
mm,
actually building up the psychological safety to be able to test talk, to say something, articulate something that they haven't shared with anyone before, and how hard it is when you are in a working environment. So even if we are in a safe environment during these workshops, it is super tough, but it is a
mm.
sort of reflection that they need to do, like, okay, how easy is it, how did it feel, and how have you matured during this journey. And I think that is one of the ways to really increase the maturity in teams, is actually to build the safety net around this type of test labs. Because I mean,
Yeah.
as well as we talked about the hybrid environment where we will work both in office and digital,
Mm,
everyone will work in a hybrid world of both delivering the solution that was promised to customers yesterday, but they also need to put on the testing
yep.
and experimenting hat of how are we going to understand the future, so we can develop the new solutions that will be promised to the customers tomorrow. And that is the both and a scenario where we need to be able to have the right hat on in the different areas. And it's tough. It's very tough.
It is, but again, there is value in doing it, and the good thing is that you don't need to get everything right tomorrow. The question, like you do when you work with teams, it's not just about where you are. Is how can you make sure that you are taking on the journey, that tomorrow you're getting a little bit closer to the goal. And as we're getting to the end of this video podcast, I think this is the last question I have for you as well, Mia. What would you like to tell viewers that have been listening to you for the past 30 minutes? How can they start this change in the organization? What can they start doing differently tomorrow, either with their team or with their organization, so that they can help their own team, for instance, to be a little bit more ready to the future of the world, the digital age, Mia?
Yeah. So as you were also mentioning several times, it's the movement from me to we, to
Yeah.
actually see that, okay, what is actually beneficial for us in the long term. So it's like, so you start to understand and articulate the value for the team,
Mm,
because that is where you will find the short-term wins for the individual team members, but you will also have your own motivation that you will gain as well from it, so you can actually get on the journey. Because you
mm.
need to be able to self-reflect, test out new things. Everything will not be perfect from day one. Not even Teams was perfect from day one. So it's like, that is a good example of something that is actually evolving all the time.
Great. No, thank you so much. I love all of the insight that you have shared with us today, Mia. Thank you so much for being part of our video podcast all about teams. We'll definitely put your contact next to the video. So if people want to get in touch with you to know a little bit more about how you work with organization, how you can help them, maybe we'll definitely put that in the notes next to the video podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mia.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been a
Thank
pleasure.
you.